Alright, Monarch. Let's make a copy of this, because I wanted to try out some deep stuff. So I want to fit as many serrated arrows into this deck as possible, and I think the highest possible number I can justify is 3. And I'm not certain how many I would want to have in the main deck. And then I was even considering doing some stuff with Faithless Looting, because you end up with Prismatic Strand stuck in your hand, as well as like sometimes the Battle Screech, and then like additional copies of Palace Sentinels are not that useful to you, and you can afford to play a higher land count if you do. But yeah, I'm not sure if that's the way I want to be going right away, because it does also make you weaker to spell status, right? If you run. I'm not that big of a fan. I mean, it does help you with extra lands, but the problem is, yeah, maybe it's good. Maybe I should. I guess if we're trying out things already, I can just do that. Yeah, but I already have too many 4-drops, and I feel like Serrated Arrows is just insane. I want to try and maximize that. Yeah, I'm not sure how I would fit that in. Then you have to play like 0 Battle Screeches, right? And then your matchup against Flares is worse. You would like do something like this. Yeah, definitely, but still I have too many sideboard cards at that point. I mean, you have to cast it like 3 times for it to be better, and then it still doesn't interact positively with Flyers. So I'm skeptical of that. And I can add the 4th Great Furnace, though we make ourselves more vulnerable to Gorilla Shaman as well. And then, okay, so now I have 22 lands, but I'm over the deck size that I was aiming for. I mean, the 60 card minimum, 60 card, yeah, minimum. And 16 card sideboard, 60 cards in the main deck is what I need to cut down to still. It's not that easy. And I need to cut a card from the sideboard as well. I guess then we don't play the 4th Pillar Sentinels, and 11 tapped lands is greedy, that's true. But I wanted to play the higher land count to begin with. I don't know. You can cut like a secluded step, but I also just added more ways of utilizing extra lands. So I'm not certain if that's the right way to go. Okay, I'll try this out. I guess I should also export it so that people can look at my very sophisticated deck building. I know exactly what I'm doing here, so people should be able to take a look at it. Okay, no, but the point of this is to try out a bunch of cards that I haven't played yet. I mean, never played, but not in this configuration, and see how it works, what aspects of this I like and which I don't, and then I can have a better idea of what I want to be playing tomorrow. No, I like the burn spells. I think the burn spells are good. Let's go. Well, I think Stompy is the least of my concerns. I would play Cop White and Cop Red before I play Cop Green. And Cop Green is good against Boggles, that's the main reason to have it. I'm also considering running more Boggles hate, having like a Petition Scorn or something. But I think Circle of Protection Green would be like the third of the circles that I would consider adding. And then it's like, so the most likely is red, then white, then green, then blue, then black. In likelihood of how likely I am to put them into my deck. No, I want the Cycling Artifact before I bother with all the Sense Enlistment nonsense. Damn, in this matchup I would want the Sense Enlistment. Now it's on the bottom of my deck. There's not even any way for me to shuffle my deck, so I guess it's just gone. That's unfortunate. Because we don't currently run any like Ash Barons or so. So I just have to play without Sense Enlistment in the matchup that it is really for. What is Prismatic Circle? Prismatic Circle. Or cumulative upkeep. It's not upkeep 1. With upkeep 1 I would be fine, but cumulative upkeep is quite expensive. No. I think Prismatic Strands does a better job at that than having like an enchantment that pretty quickly goes away because you cannot afford to keep up with it. The upkeep cost also taxes your ability to even activate it at all. So that seems pretty... It is the correct name. I just didn't know the card, or at least I had looked at it but then remembered the card but forgotten the card name as well. So, but yeah, the card name was correct. Really want to resolve Palace Sentinels in this matchup, but this was my turn to do it, but I didn't have access to 4 mana. Also, it's much better to resolve it on a clean board, of course. Well, I'm holding up reasonably well in the card advantage battle, but my opponent gets to resolve Moldrifter here, and then I might be in trouble. Or I guess they could be... Okay, Agony Warp. Sure. Not that much of a concern, but like Moldrifter here is a huge blowout, yeah. Don't like my spot here. Well, I mean, Palace Sentinels is very promising, but that's a good answer to Angler. Don't think I want to cast it on either of their creatures right now. If I start like bolting their creatures, I can potentially build myself a better board for Palace Sentinels. But I felt like, I mean, I couldn't bolt the Augur to begin with, so I felt like it was a waste of my time and my mana if I Galvanic Blast just the Moldrifter, because I didn't have Metalcraft available. If I had Metalcraft, I would have likely killed both of their creatures. Okay, so also I didn't want to journey either of their other creatures because they end up being able to recall my journey and then they get a triggered ability of it again. That was just way too big of a blowout that I wanted to avoid. But yeah, here it ends up being fine. Well, this is not the matchup for the Serrated Arrows. So we scryed the Sense Enlistment to the bottom of our deck, which is the tech card that you really want in this matchup, and then we drew the tech card that is awful in this matchup. Unfortunate. Though I guess it stops Augur of Bolas from getting any... No, stop casting Moldrifters, please. These are the only cards that really matter in the matchup. Stop. Well, we can stop Augur of Bolas from dealing any combat damage with serrated arrows, so that does help set up our Palace Sentinels a little bit. Though I think I will be patient with it for a while longer. Yeah, not looking great. Game 1 is usually tough, but I was keeping up in the card advantage battle reasonably well, and then they drew multiple Moldrifters in a row. Still, they seem to be very aggressively tapping out, so if I resolve Palace Sentinels, I'm still winning from here. We'll see. That seems strange. They still have to kill my Glintork now, otherwise they just lose their Moldrifter for nothing. I mean, for one activation, but not very favorably. Did they need that for a Delph or something? Tragic Slip. Sure. You got it. Oh, they do have a ton of counter mana open there. It's unfortunate. Hopefully they counter this. Well, no, they can... They did not? That's strange. Well, then I'm not running my Palace Sentinels into this open mana, but still pretty strange. Because resolving this is pretty great for me. It's like a threat that they have to kill that also draws me a card. Can't really complain about that. Yeah, Alchemy, sure. Maybe they just didn't have a counter, but that seems very strange with them having 6 cards in hand. Also, they could have tapped their Alchemy in a different way and then had counterspell still open afterwards, so if they really needed to counter something, that was a possibility. Instead of tapping in the way that they did there. Radiant Fountain in your blue-black deck, I'm disappointed. You should not do that. Looks like the Enroba Horror though, or not just another. Why do you tap like this, making me think it's just an Angler that I can easily beat? Instead it's the third Moldrifter. Pretty bad for me. Opponent playing pretty sketchy, but crushing me. What? Are you gonna Tragic Slip me again, really? I mean, I will just kill that guy and not take any damage on my Glintork, but sure. Even if it doesn't get any combat damage in the future, because of the arrows, it still seems valuable to have it around as a blocker. Seems strange. Now I'm in a pretty decent position because I have Monarch on an empty board. So they kind of need Thorn of the Black Rose, or they're pretty screwed. Oh, they have Dispel, sure. I mean, same thing still kind of happens because I can Alchemist Vial to protect my Monarch. But yeah, they have weird deck construction and a weird approach to the matchup. Yeah. Kill the Mole Drifter. If they counter it, I have a blocker. If they don't counter it, then they can cast a removal spell on my Glinthawk, but they don't have an attacker anymore, so regardless, it works out. Not really a good way out of that for them. Sure. So it's annoying that these go away. So I can't bounce them any longer because I kind of needed the... I guess I could have tried to resolve my Galvanic Blast first, and then if they counter it... Yeah, that was better. I should have resolved the Galvanic Blast first, and then if it does resolve, I arrows down their Angler, and if it doesn't, I get to keep the arrow counter. Yeah, that was a misplay, but I guess lesson learned. That's why we try out new cards and run into these interactions to figure them out. So now I'm monarching it up, so I'm still crushing my opponent somehow, even after they resolved 3 Mole Drifters. I'm willing to just sit here and not attack for one more turn, just so I don't have to bother throwing my Alchemist Smile away when they have a removal spell. Like, they would need 2 removal spells, and then I can still Vial, but I don't have to respect a single one. 1, 2, 3. Echoing Decay, sure. Well, I guess they did have 2 removal spells, but... Yeah, if they hadn't removed both of my creatures, I could have just cracked the clue at end of turn and not worried about these augurs so much. Well, I guess now if they counter this, I might still be in a little bit of trouble. I mean, this isn't even that great, but... I do have Prismatic Strands, but then they can fight over that with a counter. If I lose the Monarch, I'm pretty far behind. Okay. Nice. And now I'm in a decent position again, because I can kill both of these. Oh yeah, sorry, I missed the question earlier, but Matrix was already on top of it. Yeah, Monarch makes you draw an extra card every turn, which is insane, because there's like no sustained card advantage in Pauper, unlike many other formats. Like in... I didn't need to hold priority here. In Legacy, Modern, Standard, you have access to Planeswalkers, which are a very nice permanent-based way of creating card advantage. Gives you like a constant flow of extra cards, or like board presence or whatever, depends on which color of Planeswalker you have. Making like tokens every turn or something is also card advantage, even if you're not drawing cards. But Pauper doesn't have that type of effect. And so Monarch is like the best way of pulling ahead on cards against your opponent. And fighting over it is incredibly important. Many matchups revolve around that. Both fighting to resolve the card that gives you the Monarch, in my case Palace Sentinels, and then also fighting over the board position constantly so that your opponent doesn't get an attack in and steals it from you, and then they're drawing cards and you're not. And both of our decks have like more removal spells than the opposing deck has threats. Slight exaggeration, but like pretty close. We're drawing enough cards that many of the threats can be answered. They have... these blue-black decks just play too much nonsense. They have Teachings and Alchemy in the same deck. Well, I'm flooding out. And the Sense Enlistment would just insta-win and it's on the bottom of my deck. I might just die to decking myself, even though I am the Monarch now. Because I don't have enough burn left in my deck to burn them out from 26, and they could potentially just counter and kill all of my threats. That would be pretty sad. Also behind on time, of course, from commentating and all that. Yeah, I mean, game 1 is bad, and them resolving that many Moldrifters was already quite a blowout, but I think I have a new plan, and it's not a good plan, but it has to be my plan. I let them steal my Monarch. That's my new plan. Because then they might die to decking. I mean, if I play the game normally, I think I'm just losing. Though I guess if they follow up with like Angler here or something, then that plan no longer works. It was only about, yeah, okay, then I'm just super crushed. My plan was only about the small drifter. If they attacked me with a single more drifter, I would have been fine with them hitting me with it and stealing the Monarch, and then their clock is still slower than like the card draw through their own deck. If that makes any sense. Because now I might really just be decking myself, when the Sense Enlistment would be great, though any better Screech would have also been great, and would have been much better than the serrated arrows that I did put into my deck. I 5-0'd with blue-red. The highlights are on YouTube if you want to check them out. Or not highlights, like the full VOD of all the matches is on YouTube, basically. Still might be the plan to let them become the Monarch. Not a great plan, but it might be the only plan that I do have. Okay, they decided they don't want the Monarch. Fair enough. This is a strange match, but yeah, I actually don't have enough resources to still win from here, I think. I think I'm just decking out. What the hell? Opponent too smart, not taking the Monarch from me. Sure, I can try catching up on time a little bit, but yeah. Don't touch the crown, exactly. You know, could have played my land. Oh no, the Sense Enlistment is on the bottom of my library. Yeah, that was, maybe I should, I mean, no, it was just because of this matchup that I want the Sense Enlistment. I scryed it to the bottom after my mulligan. Man, that is so game ruining. They could have never beaten that card. Feels bad, man. 9 cards left, whatever. That's like some. Probably should be cracking the clues also. Wait, how many Skyforgers do you have left? Not many, right? No, none. Otherwise I could have gone... No, it's too late. I could have gone like Journey to Nowhere, bounce it, cast it on their Moldrifter, bounce it back, then they get another Moldrifter trigger and draw 2 cards off of it to try and mill them out. the super deep game plans of the try not to deck yourself with Monarch situations. Then Rovahara. 9, 13. Yeah, I'm way far away from ever killing them. Sure. And that sense investment would have been good. Okay. I think I'm just out of here. At this point they should just start attacking, because I'm going to still be dying in the decking race against them, and they can still threaten to kill me in 2 turns. Okay, throw this out, throw these out, Reaping the Rage comes in, Pyroblast come in, and then what else? Lightning Bolt out. I would want to remove even more lightning bolts, but I guess that's problem number 1. Well, problem number 1 is that they can mill us out if the Zen's enlistment is not there anymore. So if it gets hit by Bojuka Bog, or it is scryed to the bottom of my library, which it was, then we just lose the matchup. So that's a problem with my main deck configuration. I guess Kragplan Charm is also terrible, so maybe this stays in, even though I don't like it. That's a problem with the matchup in my current deck configuration, and also the numbers that I'm boarding in and out. Well, I guess this is like a reasonable thing to board in and out, but the lightning bolts are also not great. I would rather have better, more impactful cards for the matchup. I mean, my draw wasn't great. Their draw was pretty strong with 3 Muldrifters in the top 20. But endgame 1 is something that you often lose. But still, that's unfortunate that this tech card is like, I don't know, like you're very reliant on this tech card. Without it you can't win, and with it you're crushing in just this specific matchup. So the things that we learned are you need Zen's enlistment against blue-black, and maybe like one more control related sideboard card would be good to make my numbers fit. Though I'm not really keeping any awful cards in the main deck, just like lightning bolts are low impact but can potentially be used to pressure my opponent's life total. But for example, the 4th Palace Sentinels would be a decent extra card to bring in. Yeah, I definitely feel like this got worse with the setup that I'm choosing. God damn it. This is pretty awful, though. Might be better than a random 6, especially because I do have this card. Nah, random 6 has to be better. Okay, this is the bottom of our 6 card range, so go to 5. It's actually not that bad, surprisingly. I mean, if I do find the second land, it's not that bad, because Prophetic Prism allows me to cast all of this. There's already a draw engine. Yeah. So actually, out of 5 card hands, this is somewhere at the top of our range. Though bouncing this back to my hand makes my Pyroblast a little bit awkward. Yeah, probably better to get this down first. Also makes their Disfigure a little bit worse and helps me fend my land drops. And even if they have counter magic, then I can cast 2 Clintops in the same turn. Probably, I mean, don't play this land first to give them info, but just trying to play reasonably quickly so I don't time out. They seem to never counter these flyers. Echoing Decay is pretty awful for me, but I guess I still draw cards out of them. And it's like 1 Echoing Decay in the deck probably that they have as a Mystical Teachings target. Most likely their answers are going to involve Doomblade, Disfigure, Trainer's Edict, so then having multiple on the board is still an advantage to me and not a drawback. Yeah, if they spend their turn on Trainer's Edict here, I'm pretty happy about having 2 Lintoffs and also just happy about the general development. Sure. This is pretty awkward from like a signaling point of view because they know I have Prophetic Prism in my hand, but I'm unwilling to cast it. I think I'm unwilling to cast it because I want to stop them from resolving Mulldrifter. My current hand is pretty weak to Grammic Angler follow-up, but without an untapped land they couldn't cast one. Yeah, willing to take it slow and have protection against their Dispel open, as well as not allow them to trade their counterspell efficiently for my threat. Okay, no Dispel and no Hydroblast, I guess. Once again, the clue allows me to just keep playing draw, go, and have double Pyroblast open instead of having to tap out for anything. They still have a bunch of cards in their hand, but I kind of like my position now. Well, I still need to find the Palace Sentinels at some point. But I am churning through my deck. And stop them from resolving their Mulldrifter. I wasn't going to play this over any of the untapped lands regardless, so it's not really a concern. I wanted to keep 2 Pyroblasts open. Don't feel like countering this is worth it still, even though it does allow them to delve a lot better. I'm more concerned about Mulldrifter, Stormbound Geist, Soul Manipulation, Counterspell. Yeah, not really concerned about that one. Even though whenever it hits like a Mystical Teachings or an Alchemy, it can create a card advantage that I care about. Whenever it hits any random spell, it doesn't really matter because they get a free 1/3 out of the deal that you can often ignore. And the card in their hand is kind of just the Augur replacing itself, so then you can just counter the card that they're getting. So the only reason to fight over this is when you actually do care about the 1/3 body, which at the moment I don't. Secondly, when you care about a black card that they could be hitting that you can Pyroblast, for example, if this figure is relevant to your board position, and then when you're afraid of flashback cards. So on average it's probably better to fight over this, but there's more impactful cards that I want to be stopping. So having a Pyroblast still left in my hand is actually immensely valuable, like this one. Now I can fight over their counterspell. Still need to do something to make any kind of real progress. Find some core Skyfishers, find myself a Palace Sentinels. God damn it, all the all the Zen's Enlistment. Yeah, this is rough. How many lands did I play in the last challenge? I played 22, right? And this is 21 and I'm flooding out super hard. I mean, a lot of that is variance, of course, but still feels like there's way too many lands in the deck. No. I'm just dead. I think Zen's Enlistment is like my only out at this point. Because that gives me a game plan that they are not really interacting with in any favorable way. They need like their 1 Echoing Decay to deal with the board once, and then it doesn't help them deal with the board again. So like, really? You want to dispel that? That seems like a mistake. Though I guess I no longer have that many Pyroblasts in my deck, so the dispel is losing in value. But still, I would just let that die every time. I think my opponent's misplaying there. God damn it. Yeah, my current sideboard setup against this matchup I don't feel confident in. I mean, 4 Pyroblast Palace Sentinels is always the plan. But my opponent's deck list is even more controllingly slanted than many of the other blue-black decks, and I'm not well set up to outvalue them. Disfigure? What? You search for Disfigure? Okay. I mean, they're still crushing me because they have 2 more flashback cards in their graveyard. But I think my opponent misplayed this match like 5 times in different spots with some very weird decisions. Like, why would you dispel the Galvanic Blast when the Moldrifter on the board is completely irrelevant? Why would you search for a Disfigure over like Counterspell or something? All of that seems very strange. I mean, they might still have a Counterspell, but yeah, still seems weird to get a Disfigure when the 1-2 on the board was completely irrelevant and did not do anything. They can just sit there with Augur against my 1-2. And yeah, they basically spent an entire Mystical Teachings card on getting rid of a 1-2 when I was basically lost if they searched for anything more useful. Yeah, I don't know. That just opened them up to getting blown out by Bodruka Bog. Well, my last attempt at doing something. Hopefully changing this into more action. The Reaping the Graves might still help me get there, as well as the Zen's Enlistment. Come on! Well, I guess we just top 8 it. Can't really complain, that's how it goes. Sometimes you run well, sometimes you don't. Got pretty lucky in my win-in in for the top 8 in Vintage. And yeah, that's just the way it goes sometimes. Still feels bad. It is a lot of lands, it's true. I think I played one more last week in the challenge. Yeah, sure, you got me. And I did never flood out this badly. Also, still mulliganed a lot because of low land count. Like, I was considering even playing 23 instead of 22, and now I'm currently at 21 and flooding out this badly. Yeah, deck didn't want me to win. Matchup is tough when they play it well. I don't think my opponent really did. But they still had draws that were easily set up to outvalue me. Yeah, I had 22 lands in my challenge deck last week, and now I have 21 in the deck currently. Though one less of them cycles, so you can count that whichever way you want. Like, one less cycling land, but also one less land in total, so I should not be flooding out that badly. I mean, the matchup is prone to flooding out because both of us just trade resources back and forth, and then at some point we run out of things to do, or at least my side of the deck runs, my side of the matchup runs out of things to do. My opponent much more rarely does because they have the flashback engine going to chain like alchemy into Mystical Teachings into more alchemies. That's why I really need to be pressing my advantage early, doing something proactive and then protecting it with Pyroblast. Then those are the types of games that I can win. And at the point where I was successfully stopping 2 Moldrifters from resolving, I was still in a position where I could win, but then afterwards I kind of fizzled out and didn't put more pressure onto my opponent. So they got to shape their hand and crush me from there while I'm drawing into more lands. Well, the idea of a Zen's Enlistment seemed great though, so even if I never drew it, basically, I drew it in a hand that I had to mulligan, and I scryed it to the bottom before I knew what my opponent was playing. But if it had ever come up in any of those board states, if I had ever drawn one, it would have dominated. So I can still say that this matchup was a success for Zen's Enlistment, because it was constantly the card that I was looking for. Though Battle Screech would have also been quite threatening to my opponent, so I'm not certain how much better it is when you're... I mean, it's better in that matchup for sure, but you're losing out percentage points elsewhere. Okay, let's go for run 2. And that's a very